Hello, everyone. Have you ever wanted to self-publish a book, to write a book? Maybe you've dreamed about it. You have a message inside of you that you want to get out to the world. Well, you want to stay tuned to this episode today because I'm going to have a special guest, David Martin, who is a writer, publisher, and entrepreneur who has published almost 600 books and built a 7-figure business and book royalties. So stay tuned because you're going to learn how to publish your first book quickly and with audience clarity here on the Resilient Faith Online podcast. Welcome. I'm Marissa Shadrick, host of the Resilient Faith Online show. I'm a digital strategist and certified copywriter, but more importantly, a woman of faith. In this podcast, you'll find a biblical perspective to the external and internal challenges we face as online content creators. Join me for some inspiration and practical tips as we let our faith shape our work to create positive change online. To connect with our private Facebook group of faith-based online entrepreneurs, go to marissashadrick.com/faith. Hello, David. How are you today?
Yeah, very, very well. Thanks. It's great to be here with you. It really is.
Thank you so much for joining me. So you have just an incredible story, an incredible background. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey, just some of the results, some of the things? Just walk us through your story so we can get kind of that overarching picture.
Okay. Well, my wife and I are actually ordained pastors. We pastored and planted churches for almost 20 years. So we've traveled around and kind of earned our stripes out on the various mission fields. Largely in the UK is where we were pastoring. And then probably must be about 7 years ago now, I moved into more of the business space, entrepreneurial space. I'd already been writing a lot. I've produced a Bible school. So, people can access that for free at jesuschrist.co.uk if it's of any interest. So I'd kind of cut my teeth developing, writing and developing an online Bible school in the online space. And then when we kind of stepped out of actually kind of hands-on, on the ground pastoring churches, moved into publishing as really a business. And since then, I've published probably 600 books. I work with multiple authors. I author books myself. I'm very passionate about the whole self-publishing revolution that's taken place, to be honest, because it's just removed the gatekeepers and given us such incredible liberty to share our message with the world. On top of that, just the freedom and the liberty to influence and impact people's lives. I've also done kind of seven figures in royalties just from the short books that I published to Amazon. So it's not only proved a way for me to continue my pulpiteering lifestyle and sharing my message with the world, but has also turned into quite a lucrative business too. So.
Oh my gosh, you have said so much right there. That just blows me away. There's a lot there that you said. And I've got so many questions. So let's break it down a little bit. You said 600 publications?
Probably around that. That's a very ballpark figure. As I say, I work in various different ways. I write books myself. I did not write 600 books.
But you publish.
I actually hire other writers to write a lot of my books for me. I run a Christian fiction publishing business. And really serve quite a niche market in the fiction side of things. I'm not really a fiction writer or even a fiction reader other than my research, but I work with some very talented writers to bring my ideas to life.
Oh my gosh, but still, that's quite an accomplishment. Now, what kind of time frame are we looking at that you publish this? Just kind of tell us how you got started. And within that period that you've published these many books. So you've published.
Go
I
ahead.
probably started the fiction side of the business about 5 or 6 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe. And initially, obviously, I was just finding my feet. I'd never published fiction before. I like I said, I was a Bible school teacher, writer, preacher, all of that. I had produced a number of books myself. I mean, I was actually self-publishing long before long before Amazon was even like long before Kindle was even a twinkle in Amazon's eye. I was self-publishing books on a photocopier like back in the day, and I had to make them short because if you couldn't fold them over, I would print them out, fold them over, and then staple or stitch them down the side.
Oh, that's
So
so
I got
funny.
into short book publishing like way back in the day that I would take to various meetings I was preaching at, but and then kind of started moving into that space on a non-fiction basis. I did quite a number of kids' books myself. I experimented even with things like cookbooks and things like that. Not that I could call myself a cook. And then kind of through that and various other avenues, kind of started branching into the fiction side. And once I got into the fiction side, that really was where I started looking at the incredible like just the opportunities we have now, Marissa, are just
Yes.
like beyond someone's imagination even 10 years ago.
Oh, you're talking my
what
language.
what what is available to us now? I mean, there's some great scriptures in the book of Daniel. Towards the end of the book of Daniel, it's like God is basically saying, look, I've kept some things secret from you, because I mean, as we know, Daniel got kind of front row seats, but
Mhm.
God said, look, there are some things that like I can only just kind of dangle a bit of bait, but there's coming a day where people will run to and fro all over the earth, and knowledge will increase beyond anything you can even
Mhm.
begin to imagine now. And we really are in those days. I
Yes.
mean, literally, I can have an idea on Monday, and by Friday, that idea can be available for people to consume on the at the uttermost parts of the earth.
Right. The
I
internet
mean, when
itself.
when was anything like that ever available?
I
It's just
know.
so amazing.
Does it stir something in you knowing that we have the internet to be able to put out content, whether it's a book or a blog or a podcast, whatever it might be, that can impact others all throughout the world? Does that do something inside of you? Does that inspire you, or does that give you a sense of responsibility to use and leverage as much as possible?
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, if you could dance on a podcast, I would do a little happy dance right now. Because
I am
because
so
quite honestly, I am in awe of what the Holy Ghost has opened up
mhm.
for both in my own life, but it's more just the possibility. Do you know what I mean? And the I often talk about how we are called really as Christian creatives, because that's who I am. That's who I just kind of connect with and work with most naturally or supernaturally, if you like. Um, the idea that we can move someone from something that they're passionate about, they carry something in their heart, but they just don't know how to crystallize it into something others can consume. The
Yes.
way that the internet has opened things up, the way that the development of software
Hmm.
has opened things up. I mean, I've got a video editing suite in my office that's far more powerful than what people were using like just a few decades ago to produce like Hollywood movies.
Oh, I
And I've got it
know.
right in my pocket. I've got it right on my desktop.
I know. I can't believe
And
it when people say, I hate technology. I love technology for that very reason, what you're saying. It's so much easier than it was back in the day, right?
yeah, and if we can leverage technology and say, it's like people carry this passion in their heart. And at one time there was just this huge problem that stood between like the passion that they had and the possibility that they could envision. So, you carry something in your heart, man, I think I've got a book in me.
Right.
I think I could reach people with this message. I think I could help people with this idea, with this message, with this training, whatever else it may be. But there was just this huge problem that stood between that. And largely that was like, well, there's just not the means
Yeah, the
to do
chasm.
that.
Yes.
You needed someone else to provide the means to make that possible.
So,
And now, just by leveraging technology, as you say, you can just from your laptop. I mean, you don't even need any kind of expensive or complicated software. And like I say, I actually run a business that's like done well over $900,000 in royalties. And largely other people are doing the heavy lifting for me
right.
at
So,
every stage. Do you know what I mean? It's like I've learned the art of delegation, which is, but that's a different conversation.
yes, absolutely. So in your journey, from what I've heard so far, you always had this interest in writing and even photocopying pages and putting them together. But 5 years ago, something changed for you and you started looking at the opportunity. Did you face any challenges when you were actually starting to publish books? And I'm going to ask you a few more questions about
Yeah,
publishing books because I know
that's
people are
okay. It's
interested in
fine.
that. Did you come across any challenges in the beginning that might be challenges that people might face today?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think some of the challenges, it initially, anyways, whenever you kind of move into a new arena, there's always going to be a kind of knowledge gap that, like, okay, the how question. Okay, I
Exactly.
know I want to, but how do I do it? And often the answer to that question is who. You can get someone else to do some of that for you. So, for example, you could write a book. You could go to somewhere like fiverr.com, fiverr.com, and get someone else, just pay someone else like a nominal amount to format the book for you. Or you can buy software that makes it like just super easy. You can even just use Microsoft Word really to create a book and upload to KDP. And even Amazon themselves, if you just searched for something like KDP book templates, or they've actually got a software now completely free. Just look for the KDP book creator or something, and you'll see it come up, and it's like a free software that you
So,
basically copy and paste your stuff into. It spits out the right kind of files, and you just upload them to Amazon. Amazon's publishing site is kdp.amazon.com. You
so
can
you
sign up for
started just
free,
searching.
upload for free. Yes, yeah. I mean, I started like as with any new skill. I mean, I actually really like learning. I enjoy learning. I enjoy growing. I enjoy, particularly if has application. Do you mean if you can, if it's got an application? I don't like learning for learning's sake, but I love it if I can see a result that kind of is the fruit of that learning.
Yes.
And so I just started really. I'll be honest with you, Marissa. The way that you learn is to do. That's the
Absolutely.
best way to learn anything. And
Yes.
so in those early days, I made all sorts of mistakes. And some of the books that I put out probably looked more like a dog's dinner than they did than they looked like a bestseller. But in it, I learned what worked. I learned what didn't. And sometimes it's just getting over that fear. There are two things. I call them the terrible twins: procrastination and perfectionism. And they just kill so many people's dreams. Perfectionism says, well, I can't actually release this until it's perfect. Well, man, you'll be waiting till Jesus comes back, because that's when
Yes.
that's when perfection's going to land,
Right.
But
Right.
until then, we're like in some respects climbing uphill.
Yeah.
And then procrastination is just such a killer of people's ambitions, godly ambitions and dreams, where they just feel, oh, I've got this idea in my heart, but I need to know everything about the whole thing before I even begin. Well,
Mhm.
just begin where you are. If you want to write a book, do you know what you need to do? Just start
Right.
writing, open Microsoft Word up, open up a like whatever note thing you work with. It doesn't even have to be Microsoft Word,
Right.
and just start writing.
Right.
And then when you face the next step, okay, so like you've written the book, okay, how do I now kind of squeeze this into a format that I can upload and self-publish through Amazon, or there are other platforms, as you know. Well, face that question when the question is imminent.
Right. Absolutely.
And so that's really how I've worked in my business. Is I've learned on the run, if you like. I've kind of, when I've run into a problem, and again, the internet has given us such an incredible wealth of opportunity to just Google something, or I mean, I don't know if YouTube something is actually a phrase, but that's another place. It's just like
Yeah,
anything you want to know,
I know.
anything you want to find out, any skill you want to learn, you can do it largely for free.
Yes, it's so true.
Um,
I love
yeah,
how
and
you,
so there should never be that technological kind of roadblock is
or fear, we
or
can just call,
fear.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's honestly an excuse.
Yeah, I love what you said about
Mm.
the challenges. Oftentimes we face that procrastination or perfectionism, which really is rooted in fear.
Yeah.
Perfectionism is because we want to appear a certain way, or we want to
Yes. Yeah.
have
Yeah.
people's favor. And the other procrastination, we're afraid to launch, we're afraid to start. So tell
Yeah.
us, if
Yeah.
somebody is ready, if somebody is listening and saying, oh wow, I want to be like David, I want to start writing a book, but where do I start? Can you give us like a few tips on what they can do to start even putting something
Okay.
together,
Yeah.
a topic?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for me, and Marissa, we've spoken about this briefly before. I have a very much a reader-centric view when it comes to books. I don't believe a book really fulfills its purpose until it's actually being read by
Hmm.
someone. That's why we
Absolutely.
write the book.
Hmm.
And so rather than kind of wait until the book is written and published and all kind of shiny and lovely and new, and then think about, okay, how do I actually find my readers? I tend to like just start where I intend to finish and begin with the reader very much at the forefront of my thinking. And so in that, I'll go to somewhere like Amazon, and this is true for fiction or nonfiction. Find out what people are already reading. Find out the conversations that are already taking place. Find out the problems that people are already looking to be solved. And then look for ways in which you can offer either satisfaction. So like with my fiction readers, they love a certain kind of story. I'm very happy to give it to them. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
As long as it's not in any way compromised or ungodly, I'm very happy to serve that desire and that need. And with the nonfiction, most of the time, nonfiction, I think people are looking for a solution to a problem.
Right.
That it's a problem that they're trying to solve, a question that they're looking to answer. And so, and it doesn't take long of just kind of digging around. My main place of research is Amazon itself. If I'm going to sell a book, I want to go where I want to begin where people are buying books. Look and see what are the conversations that are happening here? What are the problems that are being solved and that readers are clearly looking to kind of discover a way through and a solution to? And then consider, how can I, or it may be that there's someone else that you can work with and partner with? How can I bring how can I resolve this for my
Mm-hmm.
readers?
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously, I mean, sometimes then the question comes, well, other people have written it. Other people have written books. They're so much better than me. And la, 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 yeah, 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 yeah. All of those voices. Honestly, if you infuse your own writing, if you infuse your books with all of who you are as a person, no one else has got your history. No one else has got your kind of your experience. No one else shares your story. And
Right.
all of that is baked because I'm like, I don't know if it comes across here on audio, but I'm like a passionate guy. Do you know what I mean? It's you're like, I'm a heart man. And I think for me, when I'm looking at writing a book, like I say, I'll begin with the reader in mind, but then I'll also ask myself the question, and this is even prior to beginning to write, what is this book going to do for my
Mm-hmm.
reader? Not what will it do for me and my ego, or not even what will this do for me in my bank account, although maybe the ego or not, but asking the bank account questions not shouldn't be taboo. Do you know what I mean? We
Right.
can be looking to both serve and be served in this kind of symbiotic, is that the word? Oh no, synergistic relationship that we have with the people that we bring value to.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll be asking, what can my book do for the reader, and like have that very much in mind when I'm writing. Like
Gotcha.
I'm looking to get a result for them. I'm looking to move them forward. I'm looking to kind of move the needle for them through what I write. And
Gotcha.
then also that the question of how does this, I think that the word that I use is resonance,
Mm-hmm.
that I want my books to resonate with the reader, and to resonate means to be deep and full. If you look up the definition, and it means that if something has resonance, it evokes emotion, it
Mm.
evokes it evokes images, it evokes emotion, it moves someone beyond just kind of the neck up.
Right. Right. No,
It's
I
not
get
a,
what you're saying.
to me, like particularly nonfiction is not about not so much about transfer of information, unless you're writing a technical manual.
Mm-hmm.
you know it's about transformation. It's about how can I impart something as well as inform
Right. I love
someone. Does
that.
that make sense?
It does. So the first step would be to research and see what people are already buying or looking for, and then kind of
Yeah.
even go deeper and investigate to see maybe where the gap is, maybe somewhere, again, thinking about the topic that
Yeah.
is that people are buying books and interested in, and seeing
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
what else how we can add value, how can we bring our perspective, our knowledge, our experiences, talk about the topic but in a different way, maybe fill
Yeah.
the gap, so to speak. That would be step
Yes. Yeah.
two. Okay,
Yes. Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I love
Yeah.
what you say,
And
be the uh-huh.
also Marissa, just to add to the conversation, it's not even so much that I think sometimes people get caught and get a bit snagged on this idea that everything that they bring to the marketplace has to be like incredibly original. But original, quite honestly, is a little overrated, because sometimes if something is so far out there
Right.
beyond people's regular experience and the questions they are actually asking in their daily lives, then oftentimes it's like it just doesn't, like I say, that resonance, it doesn't resonate with them. It's like, well, wow, that's really clever, that's really amazing, that sounds so like intelligent or spiritual or whatever else it may be, but it doesn't relate to my everyday
Right.
life. And so yes, I mean, I would just say to people, absolutely, you're looking for those In some ways, it's, I wouldn't call it the gap. I would call it just those niche topics.
Mm-hmm.
So like areas where you've drilled down beyond just this broad spectrum, which is like, if we try and create something for everyone, essentially it's for no one. Because
Right.
not everyone is not looking for the same thing. They're looking for something very specific. And the more specific we can be, sometimes the kind of easier it is for whatever we bring to the marketplace to land
Okay.
with
Gotcha.
people.
Okay.
But
Awesome.
in that trying, don't not getting caught on trying to be like over original in what you bring. I mean, for me, for example, I love to pray. I'm a praying man, and I can read books on prayer like again and again. I can read a book about prayer, and before I've even finished that one, I'm looking for the next one. And
Mm-hmm.
is the next one going to necessarily have anything incredibly different or vastly like something that I've never heard or never seen before?
Mm-hmm.
Probably unlikely, quite
Mm-hmm.
honestly, because the principles remain the same. The problems that people are looking to overcome, they've been the same like since Adam messed up in the garden.
Yes.
It's like
Yes.
we've been dealing with the same rubbish right back from then until now. And so I would just encourage anyone listening, man, you have got something already. You have got something to bring.
Right, right. I love that because in public speaking, it's similar too. Oftentimes people try to look for that epic story, like someone that climbed Mount Everest or something. And of course, it's an
Hmm.
amazing story, but not all of us can connect to a story like that because not all of us will go climb Mount Everest, right?
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
I understand what you're saying that resonates, so it resonates with someone. And so
Mm.
the book doesn't have to necessarily be long either to do that. Is that correct?
Oh, I'm very much a short book person.
Short
I
book.
think a book, like often people will ask me, how long does a book need to be? And I say, well, just as long as it needs to be to deliver on whatever promise you made in on the cover,
I love it. Love it.
and no more, and no more. I mean, I'm very much, it's there's so much fluff in the
Yeah.
world. There's
Yeah.
just so much like, and quite honestly, we've only got so much time.
Right. Yeah.
Really, if you can tell me in 50 pages, please don't make me read 300.
Yeah. And for those bottom liners like myself, get to the point, get to the point. You know, I'm reading something
Yeah.
going, get to the point, get to the point. I don't need the fluff.
Yeah. I
So, yeah,
talk
no.
about two different kinds of books. I talk about peak publications, which is where, that's the Everest story. That's where, like, man, I've reached the peak. I'm looking back and I'm, speaking to the world, this my kind of industry shifting, life changing message. And some of those books, those perennial books that just like are, they land on the planet and they are like, man, that is a classic.
Mm-hmm.
Within its first week of publication, it's like that's a classic piece of work. But quite honestly, they're few and far between.
Mm-hmm.
And then I talk about like share the journey publications, and I'm very much an advocate of share the journey publications, and in that, rather than kind of being the person up on the mountain peak looking down to base camp saying, like, come up here, and we're all standing in base camp thinking, well, I would love to, but I have no idea how. A share the journey publication is very much like it kind of indicates, is I've taken some steps, I've learned some things, and I'm just going to reach my hand back, and I'm going to take the hand of someone who's just a few steps behind me, and I'm going to give them a leg up so they can move toward their dream, that they can move closer to their destination
Mm-hmm.
with my help and with what little wisdom I've learned in that short space of journey that I've taken, prior to them, I'm not going to wait until I reach the peak.
Right.
And I'm not going to
Which,
wait until I'm
yeah.
85 before I actually just turn around and say, look, I don't know everything, but I've learned a few things. And I'm going to share in this book a few of the things that have worked, and also maybe let you know a few of the things that didn't, so
Yeah.
you can avoid them.
Right.
And in that, those kind of share the journey type publications, as you say, can be short because they're not trying to be everything. They're just sharing, oh, look, this bit, this part, this element I can help you with. And also, there's a big difference between the mindset that says, oh, I've got to create this amazing book, and it's got to be so clever, and it's got to be so deep, and it's got to
Right.
have 100,000 words and whatever else. The share the journey mentality is like, well, it doesn't have to be perfect because I'm not perfect. And I'm just going to share what I know now. And quite honestly, I might get a bit further down the road and look back and think, oh, well, I've learned some more things since then. Maybe I'll unpublish that one because I've actually found a better way to do this.
Right.
But
Right.
not to be too precious over things. I mean, we're called to equip. I mean, there's a great scripture that talks about equipping the saints for the work of the ministry. And the work of the ministry isn't just standing in a pulpit preaching a message or strumming a guitar at conference time. The work of the ministry is us out in the marketplace just as much as it's, and as I say, we pastored for many years. So it's
Mhm.
not either or, it's both and. But, out in the marketplace, we need people who are bringing solutions in every realm, in every situation.
I
You
love
know,
that. Yeah.
yeah. So this isn't just about, all right, let's write a spiritual book. Let's write a devotional, or let's write a book about prayer or worship or whatever else. I mean, I've written books about how to publish books. I've written books. I've written children's books. I've written cookbooks. Well, I didn't write those. I had someone else write them for me because
Right.
I saw what you talk about, the gap or the kind of niche in the market where I could serve.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
we've published books on all sorts of things. I mean,
I
on
love
that,
that. I love
on the arts.
how it's never limited you. You see the need, you see the interest, and you think, how can I show up? How can I serve? How can I add value to that interest? So I love that. I love how you just go ahead and write on different topics. Now, if someone is ready to write, they know their topic, they know what it is, how they can show up and contribute maybe their journey, their steps. You talk about various ways that we can actually, I think, 3 ways to write
Yeah,
your book. Can you share those 3 ways? Because
yeah,
I
yeah,
think that would be really practical and helpful.
yeah, yeah. Of course, yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, the first way is to write it yourself.
Hmm.
And sometimes, to be honest, this is something that people never think of. They're like, they immediately assume that they have to write it themselves, and then discount themselves from being able to do it because they say, well, I'm not a writer, I was dumb at school, I didn't get my exams or whatever else it was, etc., etc. And but there are other ways to do this. You can actually get someone else to write your book for you. And that doesn't mean that so you bring your idea, you bring your outline, and then hire someone else to actually do the writing for you. That's how I've built my fiction business.
Mm.
I've had ideas and thought, wow, this would really work in this marketplace. I got clueless how to actually write it myself. I could, but it would be a far less accomplished piece of work if I tried to do it myself.
Hmm.
And this is where we fall. Some people think, oh, but that's cheating. And there are some people in the kind of author sphere who, like, it's very taboo to talk about ghostwriters, like you're committing some sin. But quite honestly, sometimes that is the wisest and most most caring isn't the word, but if you know what I mean, when we've got the reader in view, when we've got the reader in
Yes.
the frame, I can provide them with a better experience if someone else writes this book than I can. And to a degree, that's like a bit of a humble pie
Yeah.
type situation. But I realized, look, if I want to serve these people, maybe the best way I can do it is to have someone else take my idea and kind of put the flesh on the bones.
Right.
The best place that I found to do that is Upwork.com. I've
Okay.
hired a lot of writers at Upwork.com for anyone who's interested in knowing how to go about doing that. You can just post a job. You don't pay to post a job, and people will pitch for the work. You can get
Mhm.
examples of their previous work, etc., and then choose whether you want to hire them or not.
Gotcha.
And then, of
Gotcha.
course, the third way, and I think that to a degree, this is probably the one that I like the most, is like a hybrid of the two. So you kind of build your book out in your idea and your kind of the framework that you want to create the book around. Get someone else to create the first draft of the book, and then obviously you then take that and you just add your voice and your flavor and work with that. So instead of working with just like a bag of bones, you're actually working with, you've got quite a lot of raw material that you can then work into your final draft.
I love it. I love how you redefine ghostwriting. And really, the word that came to mind is selfless. Because if you have the reader in mind first, you will do whatever it takes to be able to provide the best value. And if that means getting a ghostwriter, then so be it, so that the reader benefits. So I've never heard that before. So I love how you phrase that. You've given us so much value, so much to think about here. And the fact that you're doing this, you're actually doing it so it works. And I think this will give people a lot of hope as far as those that want to become writers, publish writers, and that it's not as difficult, especially today, as you talked about
Yeah,
technology. We've got so many tools today, and boy, we need some positive voices out there in the world today, don't we?
we do indeed.
Yeah.
And I believe that whoever's listening to this can be one of those voices.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I
So,
do.
David, if somebody wanted to connect with you or maybe buy one of your books or something, what's the best place? How can they find you?
They could go to my website, davidleemartin.com. It's
Okay.
probably the best place. It's kind of a work in progress at the moment,
Mhm.
but one way or another, they'll be able to kind of get in touch with me. And if they're interested in, I actually run something called the Christian Creative Academy. So the Christian Creative Academy is the website for that. That is actually very much centered around helping people crystallize their value into products, publications, platforms. So there's a heap of training in there, how to write a book, how to publish a book, how to create an online course is another one, etc., etc. So yeah, christiancreative.academy or my website, davidleemartin.com is a good place to begin.
Awesome. Do you have any last words for aspiring writers? Something that might encourage them?
Well, I would say just write.
Hmm.
I
That's
mean,
awesome.
it sounds a bit kind of twee, but honestly, you've just the only I there's this idea that, oh, well, I have to be a writer and then I will write. No, you write, and that's what makes you a writer. Like this is like, again, there's so
Yeah.
often we have things the wrong way around.
Yeah.
It's actually in the doing that we enter into the becoming. And
Yes.
as we do, we become. As we do, we kind of get a sense of who we are. We get a sense of the voice that we bring to the marketplace. And if you're waiting for that to come before you begin, I can assure you, you're going to be waiting like a long time,
Right.
because it's in the journey and in the trying and in the testing and the experimenting that discovery begins to take place.
Oh, well, thank you, David, so much. You've given us so much to think about. And thank you for being the man of God that you are and for all the books that you've written and helped publish. I know it's blessed many people. So thank you so much for joining me for this podcast interview.
That's an absolute pleasure, Marissa. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I
All
appreciate it.
righty. Take care. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
If you found this podcast helpful, then subscribe from wherever you're listening today so you never miss an episode. Every subscription, review, or rating means so much to me, so keep them coming and share this with a friend. For more free content, go to marissashadrick.com. And remember, keep cultivating resilient faith online to create positive change in the world.